Okay. Yeah. So we are going to have a little bit of a different class. If you're watching online, then what we're going to be doing here is I'm going to show just a little video because it's going to be better than anything that I can just personally do. After that, you probably won't be able to see it on the internet. I'm probably going to cut it out just for copyright issues. I don't know how all that works, but just better safe than sorry. Then after that, we'll have just kind of a discussion of the stuff that's been, I've got some pictures and all that from my trip. But we are transitioning away from our time in Greece. Greece, we did a lot of travel days, and there were some things that we did in Greece that weren't directly biblical related. And so I might, at the end of this class, have just like a miscellaneous day where we just look at different pictures and interesting stuff that has some tangential ties, but it's not like a city Paul went to or anything like that. But we'll be transitioning away from Greece, and now we're heading over to Israel, and we'll look at some things in Israel. And a lot of these are places that you probably know, and some of these are probably places you've not heard of before, and there might be some different terminology. And so if you got questions as we go through, just let me know. But we're going to talk about Shiloh. So I spent most of my time in Israel this time around doing an archaeological dig at Shiloh. Shiloh is a really significant city in the course of Israelite history, Jewish history. Just a couple quick facts as we get going. So in Joshua chapter 18, you have Shiloh mentioned here. This is the place where, this is the religious center of Israel before David moves it to Jerusalem. And there's, David has that shift, and David obviously doesn't build the temple, but Solomon does. But anyway, before David, Shiloh is the central place. You have the 40 years of wandering, and in Joshua 18, then the whole congregation of the people of Israel assembled at Shiloh and set up the tent of meeting there, or the tabernacle. The land lay subdued before them. So they go through, they have this long conquest, they conquer all these people, and then all of Israel goes to Shiloh, and they set up a permanent setting there in Shiloh. We'll look at that, some pictures of that in just a second. It remained the religious center for some 350 years or so. Some sources will say like 369 years, very precise. More or less that around that time frame. But really significant place from Joshua all the way to the time of David. This is where the faithful people of Israel would make pilgrimages every single year. You think about all the different holidays that were commanded throughout the Bible. When Jesus goes up to Jerusalem and all those sorts of things, well, before they were going up to Jerusalem, they were going up to Shiloh. And you see evidence of this. Look at 1 Samuel chapter 1. So 1 Samuel chapter 1, Samuel's pretty familiar story to us. This is in the period of the judges. Samuel is the last of those great judges of Israel, and then you have the transition to the kings with Saul and all of that. But Samuel begins with the birth of Samuel. There's a certain man of Ramoth Zophim, of the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, the son of Joram, son of Elihu, son of Tohu, son of Zuph, an Ephratite. He had two wives. The name of one was Hannah, and the name of the other was Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. Now this man used to go up year by year from his city to worship and to sacrifice to the Lord of hosts at Shiloh, where the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were priests of the Lord. And so this is the place where you have the Day of Atonement, all those sorts of things, all those different feast days where you go up to worship and all those sorts of things. That was all happening here at Shiloh. Shiloh is in the territory that belongs to the tribe of Ephraim. And so Elkanah was a faithful man, and he went up every single year like he was commanded to. And that's when this whole Hannah situation plays out, where she goes to the tabernacle walls and she's praying and weeping and all that sort of thing, and she's mistaken as being drunk and all of that. It's where Eli would have lived with his sons. It's where Samuel would have lived. Really significant site. And then the city's totally destroyed. You have the capital is moved from, the religious capital at least, is moved from Shiloh. Then it's moved down to Jerusalem with David and Solomon and all of that, with the temple. But flip over to Jeremiah. Shiloh is made as kind of a case study for the people of the southern kingdom of Judah here. Jeremiah, of course, is the weeping prophet. He talks a lot about the destruction that's coming their way and how they need to repent, but they're going to fail to do that, and so destruction will come to them. But you pick up Jeremiah chapter 7, look at verse 12. He says, "Go now to my place that was in Shiloh, where I made my name dwell at first, and see what I did to it because of the evil of my people Israel. And now because you have done all of these things, declares the Lord, and when I spoke to you persistently, you did not listen. And when I called you, you did not answer. Therefore I will do the same to the house that is called by my name, in which you trust, and the place that I gave to you and your fathers, as I did to Shiloh. And I'll cast you out of my sight. I'll cast out all of your kinsmen, all the offspring of Ephraim." And so it's used as kind of this case study of the judgment of God. You have another passage. Look at verse 26. Chapter 26, verse 4. "You shall say to them, thus says the Lord, if you will not listen to me, or to walk in my laws as I have set before you, and to listen to the words of my servants, the prophets, who I send to you urgently, though you have not listened, then I will make this house like Shiloh, and I will make this city a curse for all the nations of the earth." And so, skip down verse 9 here. "Why have you prophesied in the name of the Lord, saying, this house shall be like Shiloh, and this city shall be made desolate without inhabitant? And all the people gathered around Jeremiah in the house of the Lord." And so, Shiloh is going to be destroyed. And its destruction serves as an example for God's people. Because if he did it to Shiloh, he can do it to you. His name once dwelled in Shiloh, and that's not going to stop him from exacting his judgment. And the response to that is, well, why would you do this? This is a city it's been totally made desolate. It's laid bare. There's no inhabitants. Nobody lives here anymore. And that happens to a lot of cities. Whenever you do archaeology stuff, you are going to go through and find lots and lots and lots of destructions. So a term that I'm going to use a lot as we go throughout the rest of this class is the word tell, T-E-L. And what a tell is it's essentially a man-made mountain or a man-made hill. And what happens is maybe there was originally a hill there. At Shiloh, there was originally a hill here. But you build up on it, and you have all these structures, and then it gets destroyed. And so you build up on it again, and it gets destroyed, and again, and again, and you get these layers, these thick layers. And what was originally maybe kind of a small mountain, or maybe just like a plain, you end up with this huge mound of just rubble on top of rubble on top of stuff on top of stuff that's just accumulated over thousands of years. And that's what you have here. So if you look at a map, you probably see Tel Shiloh. And it just means that this is a place that's been lived at for a long time. And so that's the biblical history of Shiloh. You don't really see anything else about it. But outside of biblical times, there's a lot more that happens in the intertestamental period between Old Testament, New Testament. You have Alexander the Great comes in, he conquers the world, and then he dies, and the kingdom split between his generals. Israel is going to be the border place between two major of those empires, the Seleucid Empire up in the north, and then the Ptolemaic Empire down in the south, down in Egypt. And they're going to be fighting, and Israel's going to change hands like dozens of times. But anyway, it seems that a bunch of Seleucid veterans seem to settle in this city. and build up a new city here, a new settlement there on the ruins of old Shiloh. Then you have the Hasmonean Rebellion, the Maccabean Rebellion, and that's where Hanukkah and all that stuff comes from, where Israel becomes an independent state again. This is where, this is kind of the descendants of King Herod here. But they chase off those Seleucids and destroy the settlement, and you got another city that's been destroyed here on the same site in the 2nd century BC, so like 300s BC, or 100s BC. Then you have, it seems to be a military post during the Bar Kokhba rebellion. So after, most of our Bible knowledge pretty much stops with, like chronologically at least, with the destruction of Jerusalem, right? That happens AD 70, and you can mark that really well. In the 130s, you have a guy who comes around claiming to be the Messiah, and his name is, I think it's Joseph Bar Kokhba. I could be wrong about that first name, but son of Kokhba is what Bar Kokhba means. But anyway, he leads this little small last dying gasp rebellion against Rome, and he's just squashed. It is not really any contest. But this seems to have been a site of, a stronghold. Something happened here because there's a lot of Bar Kokhba stuff. And I found a Bar Kokhba coin, which is really cool. And so there seems to have been some building up during this time. And then after that, Rome just destroys them. You have Byzantine structures. At one point, there was a Byzantine church. Byzantine is that when the Roman Empire is split between the East and the West, the Western becomes, the Catholic Church kind of merges with it and it becomes the Holy Roman Empire. Then the Eastern Church becomes the Byzantine Empire, centered in Constantinople, and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't matter that much. But anyway, they build churches everywhere. We've seen some of those churches in the other pictures that we've seen in Greece. There's a church built here, a Byzantine-era church. And then you have in the 600s, you have the Caliphate and the Islam sweeps in, and crusades and all that kind of stuff happens in that time period. There seems to be a pretty strong, thriving Muslim group that lived on this city. And then at some point that got destroyed too. And now there's nothing. And so there's a nearby city that's a kibbutz, which if you know anything about Israel and all the Palestinian conflict and all that kind of stuff, there's parts of Israel that are militarily controlled by the country of Israel, but are predominantly Palestinian, and Jews, like major no-go zones for Jews, like red signs on the roads flashing that says, if you're a Jew and you go past this sign, you will probably be killed and we can't do anything to save you. That's where Shiloh is. But kibbutz are Jewish settlements in those parts of the West Bank, in those parts of Israel. And so there's a nearby kibbutz there, but it's under Palestinian control. And so anyway, complicated history. Let's watch a little video, and then I'll show you some of my pictures, just because this video will do a much better job at explaining all of this than I could hope to do myself. So if you're watching online, you're going to have a pause here.
I can't imagine if you wouldn't have sped that up.
Yeah, I know.
It seemed like normal.
It was about a 30-minute video. But so we'll just go through some pictures from my trip, and then we'll wrap it up. But sunrise, very pretty. One of the really cool things was look at how layered all the, like it's almost terraced. And it's not. So when you read about like all of Israel meeting there in Joshua, you can clearly see how that would be possible. Like, a little tent here and a tent there and a tent there and a tent there. It would be very accommodative for that. And all these mountains surrounding it are the same way. It's just those bedrock layers jutting out. Yeah, that's natural. But yeah, the movie theater up there. So they filmed that in probably 2019, I want to guess, and things have changed a lot. They've done a ton more excavation. But we had several of our group that were working in the bone pit, which is really cool. There's not part of our group specifically, but part of the overall archaeological group, a specialist, I forget what the term was it for. I want to say it was like veterinary archaeology or something like that, who he specialized, he could tell you things about goat skulls that were shocking. But anyway, it's really cool. Like, lots of those guys were experts. All the blue shirt people are officials. Everybody else is just volunteers. There's a little inscription of Hannah's prayer there. That's a Bar Kokhba era coin that I found. So I was on hauling duty. So after the war broke out, they had very, very few people compared to what they typically had. And so they would, in the past, they would hire some local laborer guys to go and do a lot of the hauling the rocks away. Lots of big rocks. But they couldn't do that because they were off at war. And so I was on rock hauling committee. So that's mostly what I did. Just because most of the people are either experts in some niche area, and so they're spending all their time doing that, or they're, old people that had the free time to volunteer for something like that. But that is a little Bar Kokhba era coin, and obviously it's very deteriorated. What's going on there at the end of every other day or so? Any notable finds that you find throughout get baggied and put into like an evidence locker, kind of. And then they have they call it like a field reading. So they just take them all out one by one. And all of the guys sitting there are like the real experts. And then they say, this is what I think this is. And then they'll write reports on each one of these little items and then send it to other archaeologists who peer review it and all that kind of stuff. But that's just their very initial, this is what I think this is. That guy, you remember the Mount Ebal curse tablet that I talked about? He's the guy who found that. And then that guy with the sunglasses on his head, they're co-directors, which is pretty cool. This guy is actually a member of the church in Canada, and he runs a really big program in Canada. Really interesting. There's the man himself. I think his body is 99.9% muscle. We were hauling big old boulders, but this is my square where I spent most of my time. We were tearing down a Bar Kokhba era wall to get down to where we think another tabernacle location is. And so that's just more boulders. But in this, it's really hard to see. But you have this structure right here, and it goes into the wall, like a giant wall, where they just haven't excavated yet, because you can't just cut down. You got to shore everything up and move inch by inch, and it's a really long process. But they've uncovered 3 of the 4 walls that they think is the foundation for the temple or tabernacle. What's really interesting, you have the terminology shifts. In Joshua, you have the terminology tent of meeting that's used, which in Hebrew is, I forget what it is in Hebrew. But then by the time you get to Samuel, you have a different term that's used. You get the term hikal, or temple, that's used in Samuel, which is weird because it's not the temple. And so what probably it's referring to is there's more of a more established permanent foundation for the tabernacle. It becomes more of a fixture rather than a moving thing. And so they think that this is the foundation of it. It meets the exact dimensions. It's east-west. They've uncovered just a little tip of it that would be going on that south side, and we were excavating towards the south of it. And so if that wall continued on and it met around back that other side, then it's almost certainly the temple foundation. And if that is the case, then that little square right there is probably like the Holy of Holies location, which is pretty cool. And so what I was primarily doing is digging down through Bar Kokhba era walls, through all those other layers and years of stuff to try and find that other south side of that temple foundation wall. So Any,
Did you walk in the Holy of Holies?
I did.
You did?
Yeah. Yeah.
Came out alive.
I came out alive. But yeah. Any other, we're almost out of time. Any other thoughts or questions about any of this stuff?
Tent meeting in Hebrew means tent appointed time.
Yeah. It's
like Ohel Moed.
yeah, Ohel Moled. Yeah.
I knew that.
Tent of meeting. Yeah, that's what it was. But yeah, that was my trip.
That sounds awesome.
I'll stop recording.